What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host whose older brother had 2 songs played on LA radio today. It's pretty cool. Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called Tales from the Docks 3. Hurry up and fix my boat! For those who haven't seen these posts yet, here's Tales from the Dock 1 and here's number 2. I would read them, but if I read those two on their own would take up an entire episode. So I'm not, because neither of them are from I Don't Work Here Lady. So here's number 3. This happened a few months ago in May, just before all the protesting began, and just after everyone seemed to collectively determine the virus is gone now, hooray! Unlike most of the idiots in my area, though, I was still maintaining social distancing and isolation and wearing my mask. Good for you, buddy. Here's the character sheet. There's me, your lord and savior. Huh? Maskless Karen. AJ. Not the real name, obviously. He's the harbor master. Dave. Again, not real name. Security. So, for those of you who don't know, I make canvas coverings for boats. I make everything from fabric seat covers to full enclosures with plexiglass sewn in. Unfortunately for me, while all the sewing can be done without coming into contact with others, and the materials can be ordered and shipped to Be My Shop, I still have to go into the out in order to take measurements, make templates, and do the fittings. I do make it a point to ensure that my clients are not on their boats when I'm doing my work, though. Now, on this fateful day, I happened to be on one of my clients' boats, finishing up the template for a cover for the front windshield, as well as the bow hatch, minding my own business and enjoying a fantastic audiobook. I saw Maskless Karen out of the corner of my eye, cropped haircut and all, just staring at me. Paying no mind to her, I wrapped up my templates and began gathering my things. As I was putting the templates into my toolbox, I felt a knocking on the boat. I looked up to see an angry maskless Karen whose lips wouldn't stop moving for a few minutes, making exaggerated gestures with her arms towards me whilst standing right next to my client's boat. Mostly continuing to ignore her, I grabbed the last of my tools, then taking my time, I turned off my audiobook and took out my earbuds. Immediately, I began wishing I hadn't. Incompetent bastards! Beg your pardon? Do you need something of me, miss? Did you not hear a word I said? I did not. Want to repeat yourself without yelling? She folds her arms as if to speak down to me. I said you marina people need to hurry up and fix my boat. I already called your office. Told you we were leaving tomorrow and have to get the engine working. Not a mechanic, don't work for the marina, and the marina doesn't fix Don't talk back to me, you lazy short! You get down to my boat and fix it this instant, or I'm gonna talk to the manager. We're best friends and he's gonna fire you. You mean the harbor master, AJ? Well, of course! Fine, let's go talk to AJ. Maskless Karen storms ahead as I grab my things and begin making our way to the office. I let her walk several paces ahead since she's a maskless modiliate. As we get up to the office, a young blonde woman in the marina uniform walks out of the building. Of course, maskless Karen takes the opportunity to run further ahead of me while screaming and pointing at me. Taking my time, I catch the tail end of her tirade. Your manager now! Have this imbecile fired and go fix my frigging boat! I thought you said you and AJ were best friends. Of course we are, but I need this stupid bimbo to go get him. But you're talking to her. No, I need... Wait, what? Right here. She taps her name tag that says AJ, Harbor Master. Maskless Karen, completely stunned, stood there, mouth agape, looking back and forth between AJ and I. Sorry about this mess, sweetheart, but I gotta split. No, you get back here and do your job! She reached out as I was walking away and grabbed hold of my left wrist. Quite tightly, I might add. Now, I don't like confrontations very much. I don't like interacting with people in general, and I really don't like being touched, especially by maskless idiots. But this douche had already interrupted my audiobook time, screamed at me for several minutes, and now had threatened my health, so I feel a little justified. Breaking her grasp on me, I placed her in a little wrist lock and proceeded to take her to the ground. Multiple times she tried to turn her head and spit on me, calling me a liberal sheep and how I'm an idiot for believing in a fake disease because I was wearing a mask in between her screeches of pain and agony because of the mild discomfort caused by me holding her hand. AJ went and grabbed Dave, and he escorted maskless Karen off the property, never to be allowed to return. Thank God for private marinas. She went kicking and screaming how I needed to be arrested or executed for trying to kidnap and violate her in a horrible way or something. Never saw maskless Karen again. Thank God. Apparently, AJ canceled her Mirage, so I've got no Mortgage. Is that Mortgage or Mirage? So I've got no what's happened since. Seriously, some boat people are nuts. A lot of trailer trash kind of folks around here have boats for the same reason they have Cadillac SUVs. At work and on social media, it makes them look wealthy when in reality, they're stuck making payments on a stupidly large loan for the next 20 years. But the attitude is so much worse than the rich folks that they're trying to imitate, as if all the wealthy folks are so snobbery. In other news, I need a more centralized place to tell my tales of crazy boat people. Posting my stories on all these different Karen subs is gonna be messy. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Okay, well, that was a really good story. And really ridiculous. What? Also, I used to think boats were stupid, but now I understand the appeal. Like, how cool would it be to... I'm not gonna say the reason why, but I'm sure a lot of you guys can guess. Just the freedom and the fun. This story's called Lady is Entitled to My Assistance. Warning, blood. Hospital food isn't crunchy. For whatever reason, none of it has a good, satisfying crunch. The crunchiest thing they seem to have is Raisin Bran, and that just doesn't do the trick. And after a week of being held captive by tubes and wires, I was ready for food that was actually satisfying to chew. Finally discharged, I stopped off at Humongo Chain Grocery Store for my craving. Don't judge, but all I wanted was a bowl of corn checks and freezing ice-cold milk. Hand basket containing my crunchy treat, I was rifling through the milk section, looking for the coldest jug with the latest expiration date they had. Yes, at most you can get milk that is only 2 days fresher than the jugs at the front. But I just got out of the hospital, so I was feeling really picky when she lit up my life in exactly the same way that a swarm of locusts blots out the sun. She was wearing some kind of dark, expensive-looking pants and a white, dazzling shirt over boraxed silk blouse with draping folds that just screamed, "I have more money than you." I was bending over, head stuck in the cooler, and I could hear her talking about how we were out of some organic, grass-fed, free-range, no-hormone royal cows that have never seen a poor person milk. I think the stuff sells for around $12 a gallon, and Big Grocery Store keeps all of that stuff in their pretentious section where freezers are filled with $10 microwave dinners, $6 designer chips, and tiny cans of artisanal spring water carbonated with mermaid farts. At any rate, I'm not in that section. I don't work there. I don't care about her, so I ignore her. Big mistake on her part. Suddenly, I have a snake hissing in my ear the words, "You will look at me when I am talking to you," and my wrist is grabbed and pulled. Now, I had just been released from a week at the hospital where I was, on among other things, a heparin drift, blood thinner, constantly fed through an IV tube which had been taped to my wrist, exactly where she was now grabbing me. The tube had been taped down, and while I ripped off the bandages before I left the hospital room, there was still some significant sticky tape gunk in the area. Whatever that stuff is, it usually takes 3 showers and a bottle of alcohol to get rid of all that sticky. What else might stick to tape residue? How about mean woman fingers? She grabbed my wrist and yanked my arm up, but her fingers happened to stick to the skin a bit, resulting in 2 things. The sensation for her of getting some pine sap on her skin, and my skin being twisted far more than she expected. Not that she would have cared anyway. The twisting and pulling of the skin released a bit of blood from the IV site. Just a couple of drops, not really a big deal, but enough so that when she felt this sticky gunk on her fingers, she instinctively wiped her hand on her sleeve, leaving a small trail of blood on that field of spotless white. You know how some people pass out at the sight of blood? I mean, I don't, but she sure did. She dropped like her facade of friendliness if her triple whipped ice-spiced happy no-fat soy mocha at Starbucks isn't served on a silver tray balanced on the back of a unicorn. And that's when the staff started to run up. Typical shouts of, "What happened? Call an ambulance!" followed, with Milady regaining consciousness within a minute or so and starting to scream about how I, the store employee, had thrown blood on her, clawing at her blouse and going into absolute hysterics. Store security had arrived and was glaring at me menacingly, demanding to know what had happened. Fortunately, I had an ace just a few inches up my sleeve. An ace which I played as I said, "This lady grabbed me and it really hurt." The thing about heparin is that it is the only drug that can go into that specific IV site. I needed many other IVs in the hospital, so I had another IV site just a few inches up my arm where they'd been injecting all kinds of other things. And that site looked ugly. A bruise the size of a silver dollar, brown and yellow and green, as if a parrot had binged on tricks and Lucky Charms, then threw up in the ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese. Previously hidden under my sleeve, I made sure it wasn't hidden now and displayed that bruise of honor like a middle-aged man displays a trophy yoga instructor in his convertible. She grabbed my arm because I wasn't paying attention to her and yanked. She left this bruise and it really hurts. That, coupled with the hospital armband I hadn't yet cut from my wrist, seemed to be all that I needed to turn the tide of opinion to my favor. I gave a statement to the police, who had eventually arrived, told them I wanted to press charges, got my milk, and headed for the door. A few days later, I received a call from a detective or a prosecutor or somebody, and they told me that they had come to a plea agreement of some kind fairly quickly, and if I wanted to write out a victim impact statement, to have it in within a week. I told them that as long as something went onto a record, I was fine. The crunch was indeed satisfying. Damn! That was a good story. Thank you for sharing, and that was a very creative use of your other injuries. Die, Karen, die. Or just get that slap on the wrist. I don't even think she'll get a slap on the wrist. She's obviously wealthy, right? She can probably make this disappear. All right, this last story's called First Mistake, Red Shirt in Target. Note, this happened when I was 18. I'm a girl, 5 foot tall, and since age 16, have always carried a pocket knife with sort of a trigger just for my peace of mind. Also, I've got a huge thing about physical contact and do not even like family, friends initiating any sort of hug, pat on back, etc. without asking. I was in Target for the first time and I was by myself, sorta just checking it out because we'd always been too thrifty to go to Target growing up. I was minding my own business, strolling through the aisles with my basket of slightly overpriced herbal tea. I end up in this cool snack section where they had seaweed packets and tossed 2 into my basket when I realized there was a man, mid-30s, early 40s, that I've seen in the same aisles as me quite a few times. No big deal, it's just a coincidence, right? I peruse a couple more sections in the big store and eventually end up past the baby kids section and see the same middle-aged guy sort of hanging back from me, but he's following me with more intent at this point. Getting a little nervous, but it's not like anything is gonna happen to me in Target. What's he gonna do? Kidnap me in the middle of Target with hundreds of people in it? I keep going, and eventually I see the kitchenware section. I stop and look up at the signs to see where exactly I want to look around. Ah, there! I take a step forward, and just as I do, the same man from earlier grabs me by my shirt collar and says, "Excuse me?" And without hesitation, I grab my side, deploy my knife, point it at him, and yell back, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" We're right outside an aisle, and there are people around who saw him grab me. He looks shocked, jaw slacked, and everything. I repeat to him again, just as loud and just as expletive-filled. "Who the hell do you think you are? Why are you following me? Why did you grab me?" He snaps out of it a bit and says, "Are employees even allowed to carry knives? What the hell are you doing? Where's your supervisor?" Now it's my turn to look dumbfounded. I said, "I'm not an employee, and even if I was, do you really just grab people wherever you go? Especially younger women?" At this point, we've got a small crowd, and I feel safe enough to put my knife back in my pocket. He spits back, "Well, if you had been paying any attention, you'd know that I've been around you this whole time trying to get your attention, but you just keep walking off from me. Aren't you supposed to help people in the store?" Did you hear a word I said? I don't work here! He took a step forward to look down at me and started on about, "All you had to do was say so then. Instead, you pulled a knife on me like some psycho bimbo." He then points out that I'm wearing a red shirt. I'm floored at this. I'm wearing a dark red and plaid long-sleeve harness crop top and black high-waisted jeans. What Target employee do you see wearing a plaid crop top? Finally, someone steps in to help. A tall, burly guy who looked like Duck Dynasty met Sons of Anarchy gets in between us and pushes the guy back and tells him that's no way to speak to anyone and says, "I saw the whole thing. You grabbed her by her collar. She has every right to be defensive." At this, Creep backed off, and Ducks of Anarchy, my hero, tells him to F off. He fires off one last, "Crazy bimbo," but walks off towards the back of the store. I sincerely thanked Mr. Hero, as I was truly grateful. Being a smaller person, even with a knife, you don't feel all that threatening. I took my crap straight to checkout and left. Never in my life have I thought about grabbing a stranger, employee of a store or otherwise, to get their attention. I wouldn't even tap on their shoulder. If you just say, "Excuse me," or "Hey," you're likely to get the attention of everyone in the immediate area. Maybe I was just raised differently, but I feel like not grabbing strangers is a pretty obvious social no-no. Or no, you feel like grabbing strangers is not grabbing is double negative. So don't grab strangers. Another note. Yes, I know it's a bit paranoid to carry a knife everywhere, especially into Target of all places. I also know I could have handled this very public situation without taking my knife out. But when fear kicks in, instinct takes over. I wouldn't say I regret how I handled myself, but that's just evidently psycho crazy me. Okay, well, I will say this. If you have a weapon, you're going to be inclined to use it. Like, for instance, if two people are presented with the same threat, the person with the knife is going to be more likely to want to use a knife because they have one. However, this may result in escalating a situation into something that wouldn't have happened had you not pulled a knife on whatever you're pulling a knife on. Then again, better safe than sorry. I think I'd rather be in a situation where I have a knife that I don't need than I need a knife that I don't have. However, I think it's worth establishing a sort of minimum threat level to justify a pulling of your knife out, just so that you avoid escalating a situation and someone gets hurt as opposed to nobody getting hurt. hurt. Anyway, OP, you did nothing wrong. You protected yourself in an admittedly scary situation because no one's supposed to stalk you around a Target, okay? You're supposed to be able to shop without worrying about that sort of thing. So you're safe, and that's what matters.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.